Hello, today we're going to be talking a little bit about how to build strong relationships with your teachers and mentors and even your professors. So, whether you're in high school or you're in college, definitely keep these in mind and hopefully you find something useful out of this because this is definitely like a very important topic. So, first, we'll talk about why it's important to build relationships with your teachers or professors. Then, we'll move on to some helpful tips for standing out as a student and how to stay connected with your professors. Then, we'll move on to letter of recommendations, why they're important, and how you can go about asking for them. So, the first reason to build relationships with your professors is so you can get extra class support. It's great to ask your TAs for help. It's good to ask your friends and even your tutors for help. But remember that your professors are the ones that make the coursework and make the exams. So they're the best people to ask for help if you're really struggling with course material. They're normally willing to work with you and offer guidance. If you're in college, you definitely know what office hours are, so use those to your advantage or even make appointments with your professor, and they're always willing to support you. Another huge thing is that professors like to see their students work hard, and they normally notice when their students are putting in their best effort to improve. So if you have, say, like an 89.5% and your professor knows that you've been really trying and you've been, coming into office hours, you've been asking questions, they'll really take note of that and they might even give you a little boost in your grade, give you that A minus. Use that to your advantage and really seek out help when you need it. Another huge thing is that professors are valuable mentors. They can really help you solidify your academic interests. Professors love to talk about what they did back in undergrad. They love to talk about their PhD thesis. They like to talk about research or, their experience in the workforce. So, feel free to talk to them about, their field of study. Feel free to talk to them about your own goals and what you're considering as like a career pathway maybe. And they'll, talk to you about what they know and they'll try to help you. If you're an undergrad, then this is a great time to get involved in research, and professors can help you with that. So, if you show interest in a topic that they do research on, they can even offer you a position in their lab. If they don't have any spots, they can always refer to you another lab. So, great time to get involved in research, and they can help you. They can also help you with other opportunities like internships. I remember back in high school when I took AP biology, I remember telling my teacher that I was interested in studying biology in college, and he told me 4 to 5 different internship programs for the summer that I could apply to. So that was really great. So, they love to hear about your goals and they can definitely help you with that. The next reason, and very important, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, is getting letter of recommendations. If you don't know what letter of recommendations are, basically professors or teachers will basically write about you as a student and then also about your positive qualities and recommend you for whatever you're applying for. Very important when you're applying for college, internships, even volunteering positions, graduate programs, and employment. So the next question is, how can you stand out? Now, if you're in high school, then you have pretty small classroom sizes, but if you're in college and you go to a really large public college, then you might know that there's almost 300 to 500 students in your lower division classes, if not more. So it's really hard for your professors to know you personally. And unless you're making that consistent effort to stand out, your professor will not know you. So you really have to be proactive here. And this is not like a complete list in any way, but I think this kind of sums it up and gives you the main pointers. The first one being be professional. If you expect your professors to recommend you or write you a letter, make sure you're always respectful and courteous. And this goes beyond, just being nice, but make sure you're always greeting them, maybe ask them about their day. Make sure you're not using your phone during class or during office hours. So, really make sure that you're being professional in their presence. The second reason is always do your research. So it's always a good idea to do a quick online search about your professor's background and what they're interested in, maybe what they do research on. Not only does this tell you a little bit about what your professor does and what your professor likes, but it also tells you something you can talk about during office hours. Professors love to talk about their research. The third thing you can do is you can do well in class. So you don't have to have the highest grade in the class. You don't have to have an A plus or be a genius, but you should do your best in that class and show that you're dedicated to your academic success. And last but not least, actually, I think this is the most important, but you have to actively participate. It's okay if you have an average grade in the class, it's okay if you're not doing amazing, but make sure you're actively participating. Sit in the front of the classroom, take part in classroom discussions, ask questions, visit office hours, really be proactive and participate as much as you can. So now the biggest question of all, how to ask for a letter of recommendation. So here are a couple of pointers that have worked for me personally and some of the people I know. The first one being only ask your professor if you're confident that they can write a strong letter about you. The emphasis is on strong because generic or vague letters are not useful and can sometimes hurt your application. You want your professor to be able to write about your specific qualities that can make you a good applicant. Another thing that's really helped me is asking your professor right after you've taken the class or towards the end. Normally, if you wait too long to ask your professor for a letter, they won't remember you, especially if you're in college and you have really big classroom sizes. You should definitely try to ask your professor, right after you've taken their class. And last but not least, be considerate and respectful of their time. If they're teachers or professors, they have a lot going on at the side, like research and whatnot. So make sure you ask them if they have the time to write you a letter. If you're setting up appointments or meetings with them, be punctual to those. Keep them updated about your application. And yeah. Now, don't have to use this template, but this is kind of the template that works for me whenever I'm asking a professor to write me a letter of recommendation. Make sure you use their name, keep it personal. Make sure you talk about what class you took with them, why you enjoyed taking it. You can even include your grade if you did really well in that class. Give a little bit of background, um, and ask to meet with them and discuss it in further detail. Um, and something I like to do at the end of my emails is kind of acknowledge that, writing a letter of recommendation is time consuming and it might not fit my professor's schedule. So I completely understand if they prefer not to write me a letter of recommendation. So make sure you're kind of not forcing on them and you're giving it, your professors an option. You can also kind of do like a general Google search and search up, letter of recommendation, email templates or email drafts, and a lot of great templates come up. So that's great. Now that we've kind of talked about all the things you could do, there are some things you definitely should not do. The first thing is don't ask a professor who does not know you well enough to write you a letter. It'll definitely show in your letter because your professor won't know enough to talk about you. He'll probably say something like, oh, so and so is a good student, but that's not enough. Again, you want your professor to be able to write specifically about you. And if they don't know you well enough, they can't do that. Another don't do is don't email your professor asking for a letter on a short notice. So, say you have an internship application due in 2 or 3 weeks. Don't ask your professor because they're not going to have time. And if they're writing a really quick letter, it's probably not going to be a good one. Again, be very respectful of their time and let them know in advance. Another don't do is don't wait too long to ask them for a letter of recommendation. Keep in mind that if you're, in college, your professors probably get hundreds of new students per quarter or semester, so you don't want them to forget you. Last but not least is don't be nervous and keep it real. Professors can tell if you're trying too hard and they're just people. They normally just want students who are willing to have a conversation with them, who are passionate and hardworking. So the more real that you are, it's easier for your professors to write about you. And that's it. So if you have any questions, you can definitely contact us at our email. And we also have an article about writing a letter of recommendation and how that whole thing works on our website. We also have a lot of great articles about applying to grad school or effective studying strategies and things like that. So definitely check out our website if you want to read those. But yeah, thank you so much for listening.